to the Crafty Historian podcast, episode number 30 something. I can't remember. I should have looked that up. But yes, welcome to anyone who is returning. Thank you very much for coming back, and hello to anyone who is new. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rachel and I am studying for a Masters in Public History at the University of York. Yes, that's correct. And yes, at the moment I'm doing these podcasts monthly. So this is March 2019's roundup of all of the things I have been knitting, and well, no, I've just been knitting at the moment. So yes, if you would like to find me, I am on Ravelry as RachelRavenclaw and Instagram as RavenclawRachel. We also have a group in Ravelry, so which you can find if you search the Crafty Historian podcast. And I also, yes, I'm also here to sort of say, I do have a couple of patterns out, so if you are interested, I will link my most recent one below, which is the sock set shawlette. So yes, it's been a bit of a manic month, so I don't feel I've got a lot of crafting done. Yes, I'm currently in the middle of writing 2 4,000 word essays. I've just finished one and I'm starting to research the next one. I also helped run a charity event for Comic Relief for our university. It was a dance competition where we paired sports people up with dance people, and the dance people taught the sports people how to dance. We couldn't legally call it Strictly because legal, and apparently the BBC owns the word Strictly. But yeah, we raised over £2,000 and it was a lot of stress, so much stress, but it's done. I've had a few interviews. I haven't been employed by anyone, so I've got to keep on that. I submitted a dissertation proposal, so I'm still waiting to hear back if that's a go. If not, I do have a different dissertation which is probably a bit more conventional, which I can do, and that would be what I will be doing for the next 5 months, researching and writing 20,000 words. So that's a rundown really on what's been going on with me, but that's not what you're here for. So shall we hop in and see what I've been knitting? I do have one finished object. I finished this yesterday. I was very happy. Oh, by the way, today is the 28th of March, so there are still a few days, but you know, got things to do, and it's Mother's Day on Sunday, so I wanted to get this out earlier rather than later. So I managed to squeeze these in yesterday, and they are my finished Clark socks. Now, I left my sock blockers up in York, so I'm afraid we're back to the normal of me just showing flimsy socks. But yes, these look tiny, but I promise you they fit my feet. And even better, I've woven in the ends. I know, terrible. Well, no, it's actually really good. It's just I'm usually terrible. So yes, these are the Clark socks by Jaclyn Salem. And I've knit them in a Wendy Rome 4-ply, which is this lovely purpley brown colour. Got lots of different tones of reds and blues and greens. And what you can see, it's just a nice cable down the front with these diagonal stitches, and there's a small cable down the back. I did a slip stitch heel, like that, and a wedge know. And 2x2 rib, I think is what they called for. I think I mentioned possibly in January that this pair of socks did feel like I was carving out a pair of socks. The yarn is so solid. It feels like it's going to be really good wearing. It's going to wear really well. That's the words I'm looking for. Those are the words I'm looking for. Can you tell I haven't spoken to anyone today? But yes, I am really happy with these. These are, yeah. That's blowing out terribly. That's more the colour. So yes. I'm not sure what more to say. I really enjoyed the pattern. The way it's written, it's really memorable, I don't know. It's easy to commit to memory. Yeah, and it's one of those where you want to finish. It was really easy to say, oh, I'll just finish a repeat, because a repeat is 8 rows. You're just like, oh, I'll just finish the next one. Oh, I'll just finish the next one. So I have a total of 14 repeats down the whole thing. 5 towards the heel to where I did the heel here. So there's 5 repeats. 5 repeats to where I inserted the heel, and then I took 9 for my foot because I've got big feet. But yes, I think they turned out really well, and they definitely need a soak and then a block, but otherwise can't wait to have these on my feet. So finished pair of socks. That is the only finished thing I have for you this week, month. I've got a lot of back pain at the moment, sorry, so if I start moving, that's why. But I do have a few other things that I have been working on. I don't think you've seen any of them either. So, first thing, living in this little project bag with a little Harry Potter in his Tri-Wizard uniform. I made this myself. Is another pair of socks, because if you have a cable sock, you need a vanilla sock, right? So I actually have a hoe. Ta-da! So this is a West Yorkshire Spinners sock, which seems to be my go-to. I love West Yorkshire Spinners for my feet. So, what can I say about this? The yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners in the local yarn shop day colourway from 2017, and the toes and heels are knit in West Yorkshire Spinners in the grey colourway. I did, I believe it's about 16 rows of 1x1 twisted rib at the top, and again doing slip stitch, heel flap and gusset, and a wedge toe. The only difference here, so these were knit on 2.25mm needles and 64 stitches. These are knit on 2.5mm 9-inch circulars and 56 stitches. I'm not sure what the gauge is on either of them, but this is definitely slightly looser to this. So this is where I am on the second one. I'm nearly ready to put in the heel. So you can see, whenever I do striped socks, I like to match them. So you can see they are perfectly matching at the top there. And then I will put in, I just need to do the next row of white and 2 rows of blue and then I'll stick in the heel. And that'll be them well on their way. I really enjoy 9-inch circulars. I know a lot of people have some issues with them, but because of the way I hold my needles anyway, so I hold my needles on top like this, so I'll show you with this. So if I was knitting with just a regular pair of needles, I would knit with my hands on top and throw like that and off. I know some people stick their hands like that, which obviously is going to be a bit difficult with 9-inch circulars because your hands are, the needles are shorter, so you can't rest it in the crook of your thumb like that, so you can't do it like that and flick like that. I suppose with continental it would be the similar because it's with one finger, so that may be able to work with a 9-inch circular as well. But I often think the way I knit is kind of naive in the fact that it's just, yes, I'm holding them. And I have tried moving my hands around and things like that, trying to get different ways of moving them, but this is just the way I'm comfortable, and I'm fairly quick at it, so I would just sit here like that. Sometimes I will like hold them in place like that whilst I wrap them. That's just the way I do it. But the way I knit therefore makes it really easy to knit on these. So if I show you quickly, tension it, hold it on top, go in, I hold it, I wrap round, and I can pull it off and slide. So it's very easy for me to watch TV and just do this because it's easy enough to hold in one hand. So this is, my stability comes from my left hand, and my right hand does the movement, because I've got practically no fine motor skills in my left hand. It's really good for just having that stability. So I've actually found that the 9-inch circulars make it easier for me to knit without, you know, watching, because I can feel it and it moves around just as easily. And I don't have to worry about cable management. So that's my little spiel about 9-inch circulars, and it all depends on how you hold your needles, I feel. But just to say, you're also getting a look at how I knit. And the way I knit just seems to work really well with them. So yeah. 9-inch circular socks on the go. I will say the thing that's difficult is doing heels and toes on a 9-inch circular. Gets a bit tricky, but it's working. I'm managing. So yes, that is that. Zoop. My second work in progress is another jumper. So last time I finished my Captain Marvel jumper, which I did wear to when I went to see Captain Marvel, and I've been wearing it a lot because it's really cozy. But I kind of want to get into knitting garments, so I cast on another jumper. It is living in a bag that is a recent purchase. This is by Tatty Designs, and how could I resist a Winnie the Pooh bag? If you don't know, I'm a big Winnie the Pooh fan, and some of the bags I've made myself. So this is empty. This was holding my Clark socks. This is one I made out of a Cap Kidston Fat Quarter when they did their collaboration. And then I've also got this other one, which is a Winnie the Pooh fabric, which I adore. It's so pretty. So I couldn't resist a Winnie the Pooh project bag. Plus I've never had one with drawstrings before, and I was intrigued. So inside here, there you go, better look at the bag, is I did a search. I wanted a DK jumper, just so I could gradually build up some skills, that had a texture that wasn't too complicated, and I found it really difficult to find anything. Eventually I settled on Bittersweet by Veera Välimäki, and I know Veera Välimäki is a well-known designer, but this only had 8 projects to it. I don't see why. It's a fantastic pattern. So I am having lots of fun knitting it. So if you're looking for a pattern, perhaps try Bittersweet. It's worked from the top down, so you cast on for your neckband. Mine's quite tight. Well, it's not tight, it's stretchy. It does go over my head. I can promise that's over my head, but it does suck in because I did a twisted rib. And I made I changed, it's meant to be moss stitch on the sleeves as well, but I decided not to do them, so they will be stocking stitch. But here we go. So it's just another top-down raglan. Like, it's a different shaping method too. Well, not a different shaping. It's got different rate of increases. I can't give too much away, obviously, because it's a paid pattern. Paid for pattern. Oh, goodness. There we go. But it is a top-down raglan that has worked then with this gorgeous moss stitch for the body. I am knitting the size medium, and it uses, I got gauge on 5mm needles, which is actually the recommended needle size, and then you use a 3mm for the ribbing around the neck and cuffs and hem. It's got this lovely feature down the side of a stocking stitch pattern. So at the moment I am just knitting straight. I've got about another 10 inches to go. But I love this. The colour, can we appreciate this colour? It's turning out more fuchsia, but it's more purpley than it's coming out here. It's got different strands of red and blue in it. And this is so soft. The yarn I am using is James C. Brett Double Knitting with Merino, which is 70% acrylic, 20% polyamide and 10% merino, machine washable, and it is the shade DM14. But yes, this is really soft. Not sure what else to say. It's still got acrylic in it, which I'm trying to move away from, but at least it does have some wool content in it. And as I said, it's really soft. So hopefully it will make a lovely wearable jumper. So it's a slightly oversized jumper. I think it will have like 5 centimeters of positive ease, and it has a split hem, so that'll be fun. I've never done that before. And then I'll have stockinette sleeves. It'll just be a nice one to wear with, for example, I could probably not with this dress, but I could put it over a dress, I could put it over some skirts, I could put it over jeans, which I do wear. And because of this high collar, it's not going to look weird when I wear my shirts. So it's very unusual actually for me to like this cut of a neckline. I'm not very fond of something this low. I like to have a collared shirt usually. So this will go really nicely with a collared shirt peeking out the top. Yeah. So yes, I don't know why people aren't knitting this, but if you're looking for a nice, simple but effective jumper pattern and you don't mind knitting moss stitch, I thoroughly recommend Bittersweet by Veera Välimäki, because it's zooming along. I can knit about an inch a night, so my aim is to have the body done by the next time I show you, which should be doable. I didn't knit on it yesterday though, I was finishing off those socks. But that is my jumper. That was not intentional. It was meant to just go like that. Instead, it nearly hit the door. Oh well. The final thing that I have been working on is my Cozy Memories blanket. So I go through fits and starts with this, it seems. And it was great for the end of this term, because it's such a simple pattern that I can just do it mindlessly now. I also had a time I wove in the ends. Woohoo! Apart from the ones on like the row just done, because I sometimes use them to tie in the next mini skein. But yes, this is one of my quadrants. And it has reached 7 by 7. So here's the big overview. A nice quadrant going on. So I believe I'd shown you those 3. I'll go quickly through them if I haven't. So this is a Mothie and a Squid. This is a Yarn Lab UK from my advent calendar. This was a Nora George Yarns advent calendar from All Wool That Ends Wool in 2017. This was from my advent calendar last year from 2018. This one, this lovely purple, is from Pix Atlantis, and I believe this is her Luna colourway. This one is also Pix Atlantis, and I believe this is Octopus ink. It's a gorgeous purple. This is kind of these 3 are my Pix Atlantis corner, because this one is also Pix Atlantis, and this is Fred and George's Fireworks. This one is a Beehive Yarns. I believe it's called Summer of Love. Advent calendar, my Yarn Lab UK advent calendar. This one is also that. This one was All Wool That Ends Wool advent calendar. And this is a Beehive Yarns in Take the A Train, which I designed my sock set Shaulette in. So there we go. This is gorgeous. I love this colour so much. So yes, we have reached 7 by 7 on the first quadrant. The second quadrant, which is exactly the same as this because they will mirror, has reached 6 by 7, so I've got all of those done, plus 2 up here. So I just have the Beehive Yarns and the pinky purpley advent yarn. And then once I knit all the way across here, I will start on my other 2 quadrants, which I did bring home, which are these 2. So they look like this, and these are at 6 by 6 at the moment. Wrong way round, that way round. So these are at 6 by 6 at the moment, but I've brought home in here all of the minis that I need to do my planned 7 by 7s for these as well. So yes, I've got these to roll up. Actually, so yeah, these are the ones that I've got to knit across, and then I've got a selection of minis that I need to wind up at some point, which will take an evening in itself probably. I knit these on 3¼ mm needles, so 3.25 millimeters in straights. I don't mind the slightly looser gauge. Yeah, that's all that's in there. It does loosely follow the Coziest Memory by Kemper Ray, but it's been going for so long now, I don't need to look at the pattern, I just know what I need to do, and zip, we're off. So yes, blanket ahoy. I've still got a way to go though, although this is now really nice to just sit on my lap whilst I'm knitting on something else. It does cover my lap, just I want a nice big blanket out of this. So 7 by 7. By the end of this I'll have 4 lots of 49, so I will have 196 squares. Yes, 196 squares by the end of the time I hit 7 by 7. But I know I definitely need at least to get to 8 by 8, if not more. You sit again. Wow. It may end up being that I just go for a nice round number and go for 10 by 10 for each quadrant, which will be 400 squares. But obviously that's a way to go until then. I will say though, I got all my minis out the other week even, it was before I came home, and I have an abundance of blue, mainly from my advent calendars. I think people just like dyeing blues, but I have a bit of a lack of red, so if anyone knows of anywhere where I can get like individual shades, maybe. No, I shouldn't be buying things. Perhaps I'll wait and I'll see what I need. I've got enough planned at the moment. I don't need to buy anything. We'll see how it goes. Neon yellow is also one that's really popular apparently. I've got another one that's even brighter than this one. It's a bit bonkers. So that's my blanket, and those are all of my works in progress at the moment. I am going on a very long train journey soon, so I'm going to cast on a couple more things. I'm going to cast on a vanilla sock for my mum's friend, not my friend's mum, my mum's friend, and so I'm going to be doing it in this Kinghole zigzag on 2.75mm needles, so I will cast those on, and once I've done heels and toes of my 9-inch circular ones, I will be casting a pair of simple skip socks on for my mum in the grey because she requested that, and I might be dividing this into two and making a design. For those people who don't know, this is another Pixel Atlantis yarn. I believe it's called You Must Be a Weasley, but it's got these lovely sort of orangey speckles, so it could also be a koi fish, I suppose. It's lovely and soft. So we did a Christmas swap and I got a couple of these balls of her yarn, which is really lovely. So might work something up in that. I need to weigh and see how much it's got though first. Yeah, I am at that point where I kind of want to cast on loads of things, but thankfully I left all my needles up in York, so I can't cast on too much. I've also still got a shawl up there, so I need to do that before, because I want to cast on my Wonder Woman shawl, but I can't do that just yet until I've finished the one that I've currently got on the needles. And hats, apparently hats are the thing I want to knit at the moment. So we'll see about that. I haven't done any sewing because sewing does take up more of a dedicated amount of time than knitting. Knitting, you can sit down and pick something up and put something down for 15 minutes. Whereas sewing, you just have to sort of set aside an afternoon, and I haven't had an afternoon. My sewing machine's up in York, so I don't have it here. And my scrapbooking, I don't know what's going on with that at the moment. Oh, and I tried to do some more weaving. I tried to weave another scarf, but turns out that those frame looms that you get from Hobbycraft for 15 quid, not meant to be put under that amount of tension, so I'm having to rethink and save some money. I think if I want to actually start weaving for gifts, then I will have to buy a proper loom. But we'll see how that happens. But yes, that's all the crafty stuff for this month. I am going to launch into a history section, following on from the discussions we had around racism in the knitting community. I'm looking into doing more international and BIPOC stories for my history section. So I have today done some research on Nakano Takeko. However, I am aware this is not my story to tell. I am quite clearly a person with white privilege who is able to study this history for fun, or even, you know, for a degree. Although they didn't run this option in my year. They ran it the year above, but not in my year. So yes, before I launch into my history section, knowing full well that this is not my specific history, I would like to give you a couple of resources that if you would like to look up and search out some of these histories for your own research or learn from other people, I would urge you to look at on Instagram Knit Quilt Sew Stitch. So that's all one word, lowercase, all 4 words blended in together. As she has been doing, or rather they have been doing, a Women of Colour History Month, and it has been fascinating to read. So have a look at that and see the work that they have been putting in. It's amazing, so go and do that. The other sort of place where you can find some information and these sort of stories is rejectedprincesses.com, which is a website that I stumbled across, and it is amazing. So yes, 2 resources that I will try to link below if I remember. But yes, those are places where you can find out more of these diverse stories. Rejected Princesses is good too as a starting point, because you can look at them on a map, so you can focus in on where you want to find things. There's also can be sorted by the things that they're related to, and yeah, it's a really nice site, so have a look into that. So I'm going to launch into a history of Nakano Takeko and why people should know her story. So I will preface this in advance, saying that if I pronounce things incorrectly, I apologise profusely, and please feel free to correct me. Yes, so Nakano was born in 1847 to the eldest daughter of an Aizu official. Aizu was a region of Fukushima but was dissolved following the Boshin War. As a part of being a daughter of an official, they were a part of the Boshi class, which is where you get the traditions of the samurai. That was a class of people of society, as opposed to a specifically warrior. Though it just so happens that was how they were trained. A rough translation into a westernized tradition would be a knight, so they were also officials and part of running the country, as well as being traditionally seen as the martial arm of society. But in Japan, they trained their women as well in the martial and literary arts, and they were known as onobugeisha. So that is what happened to Nakano when she was a child. She was trained and educated, and there is a little bit of sources. There are a few sources around her life then, but the main story picks up at the Battle of Aizu. The Battle of Aizu was part of the Boshin War. So the Boshin War is also known as the Japanese Revolution, so it was a civil war between the ruling Tokugawa shogunate and those wanting the return of imperial rule. Aizu and the provinces surrounding them supported the shogunate, whereas they were being attacked by those wanting to reinstate imperial rule. So the Battle of Aizu eventually started with a siege on Suruga Castle on the 6th of October 1868. This was, sieges are always difficult. They surrendered after 1 month. But not before Nakano Takeko led a group of female warriors. They technically, during a siege, the onobugeisha weren't allowed to fight. They were to tend to wounds and protect the inside of the castle. So the fact that Nakano led these women was distinctive. They joined the 3,000 samurai, so the men, the martial military nobility, males. They joined, even though Nakano's group were unsanctioned, they weren't meant to be there. So these 20 female warriors were later known as the Joshitai. It is said that there are some conflicting reports here. I read somewhere that Nakano killed a total of 172 samurai. It's not certain if that is within one conflict or over the period of her life. Others say that the ferocity of the charge of these female warriors meant that she killed 5 of the opposing imperial army. But I think what's important to note is that the Imperial Army had been modernised, so they were carrying guns, whereas from what I can discern, the shogunate warriors at Aizu they were a part of, they didn't have guns. So yeah, it's difficult to separate out where the truth lies in some of these things. More research, I could have done more research most definitely, but as I said, I'm currently in the middle of 2 essays. But this is a really interesting story, so I might go back to it. But yes, Nakano and her Onobugeisha were fierce, and they made a difference, a small one. They still surrendered, but they have that place in history. Nakano was in fact shot by the Imperial Japanese Army during the battle, and rather than letting her head become a trophy, she asked her younger sister, so Nakano Yuko, to cut it off. So her younger sister had to cut off her head, and she took it to be buried at the Hokkai temple. She buried it under a pine tree, and I believe there is now a monument to Nakano Takeko there. So after Nakano had died, the siege of Suruga Castle ended in November 1868. There was a mention of another woman called Yamamoto Yeko, who sounds like someone I want to research as well. By the sounds of it, she was also within Suruga Castle, and she was part of the campaign to get women's rights in Japan, so I think she might end up being someone that I've researched further as well. But the way that this fits into the wider story, so Nakano's story of leading these Onobugeisha alongside the samurai, is that after the war, the samurai became prisoners of war. So the samurai of the Tokugawa shogunate became prisoners of war, and then slowly, as the imperial rule began to continue to modernize, in 1873 they decided to conscript a modern army instead of relying on the individual samurai nobility. So from 1873 there was a decline in this sort of military class. So Nakano Takeko was really one of the last people to be a part of that sort of tradition. And the fact that she fought when they told her she couldn't is very, I think she was very interesting. Clearly there is more that I could be doing to research this, and we should embrace some of these histories, these diverse and interesting histories. So I will be continuing to explore them, and if you have any suggestions of other figures or events that you would like me to look into, I can definitely have a go. If you want to leave any recommendations down below, I would like to look at less known stories, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you an excellent April full of knitting and whatever craftiness that you happen to find enjoyable. Thank you very much, and hopefully I shall see you soon. Bye!